years, as Italy have, then we would never hear the end of it. This idea that nothing matters if you don't end a tournament by lifting the trophy seems to me to be both fairly new and fairly unusual. I am just about old enough to remember Germany players being given a hero's welcome when they returned home from the 2002 World Cup as losing finalists, and England fans being very envious of Germany reaching the semi-finals of 2010 and 3 successive Euros between 2008 and 2016. Just because they didn't win didn't mean that we thought Germany's tournaments weren't meaningfully different to our own. That is to say, going out in the round of 16, getting groups or failing to even qualify, we were envious of them playing in big games, winning knockout matches, and getting to follow their team until the final stages of tournaments, even if they didn't lift the trophy. As someone who attended every England game in the last Euros, whilst, obviously, I would have quite liked it if we had won the final, the idea that us going out in the round of 16 or in the final aren't substantively different because either way you haven't won anything is not only silly, it probably speaks to a depressing development within football discourse, and even in the way that some people interact with the sports. Jude Bellingham's last-minute overhead kick against Slovakia, beating Switzerland on penalties, and Ollie Watkins' 90th minute winner in the semi-finals against the Netherlands didn't result in a Euros winning campaign, but that doesn't mean that they weren't all magical moments for England fans, or that they were no better than the turgid tournaments which preceded Gareth Southgate's appointments. Even less enthralling matches, like tournament qualifiers, are also taken for granted. England haven't lost a World Cup qualifier since October 2009, 16 years ago. It is the world's longest ongoing unbeaten run in World Cup qualifying, and whilst lots of people, including and in fact, especially England fans themselves, will say that qualifying is easy and that qualifiers are a formality or even meaningless, go and tell that to Italy fans, 4-time World Cup winners who haven't qualified in over a decade, and might not even qualify for the tournament in 2026, following a 3-0 defeat against Norway, Netherlands fans, who missed out on both Euro 2016 and the 2018 World Cup, or even England fans themselves not all that long ago, when we failed to qualify for Euro 2008. I don't want to sound too old here, I'm not even 30 yet, but I guess there will be quite a lot of people watching this who aren't old enough to remember England failing to qualify for Euro 2008 and watching a tournament without England in it. It was rubbish. Serbia are ranked 32nd in the world, above Norway and Poland, who recently beat Italy and drew with the Netherlands in World Cup qualifying. Ahead of hosting England over the most recent international break, Serbia were unbeaten in World Cup qualifying, they were unbeaten at home for over 2 years, and they hadn't even conceded a goal at home since November 2023. During that time, Serbia have defeated both Austria and Switzerland, and drawn against Denmark and Spain, maintaining their place in the top-flight Group A of the UEFA Nations League. In an international break where Germany lost 2-0 against Slovakia, Kosovo beat Sweden 2-0, and Brazil fell to a 1-0 defeat against Bolivia, England smashed 5 past Serbia in Belgrade without return, extending their run without conceding in competitive fixtures to over 10 hours. This is just considered to be the norm. Then there is the women's game, of course, which has seen absolutely astonishing growth and development in my lifetime alone. The England women's team are now capable of selling out Wembley Stadium for their biggest games and attracting crowds of over 40,000 for games played in Newcastle and Sunderland. Despite touring all over England, the Lionesses have only played a home game in front of a crowd of fewer than 20,000 fans once in the last 3 years, whereas Italy's men's team have done so twice in the last year alone. The Lionesses attract bigger crowds than some of the world's biggest men's national teams, and we barely think anything of it, yet when they go to Spain, they play in front of crowds of 12,000, 10,000 in France, and just 3,000 in Portugal. Having been banned from playing at FA-affiliated grounds for 50 years, from 1921 to 1971, after the FA declared the sport, quote, unsuitable for females, the England women's team couldn't even qualify for the Women's World Cup at the start of this millennium. They were losing 8-0 against Norway and had sub-5,000 home crowds as recently as the early 2000s. Now they are back-to-back Euros winners, with a World Cup final appearance in between, and 2 semi-final appearances preceding that. Arsenal, meanwhile, just became European champions in the women's game. The Women's Super League has the highest attendances of any women's league in Europe and the second highest in the world, behind the NWSL and Rising, and the engagement and participation in the sport among young girls is incredible. Then there's the England under-21s, back in the men's game, who have won the last 2 under-21 Euros back-to-back, the under-20s, who won the World Cup in 2017, the under-19s, who won the Euros in 2022, and the under-17s, who also won the World Cup in 2017, as well as reaching that year's under-17 Euros final. Across the men's, women's, and the junior games, England are the strongest footballing nation in the world by some margin. As a trifecta, in recent years at least, there's only Spain that can rival them at all. And yet again, at the Women's Euros final this year, the stadium was full of England fans. Even in terms of disability-specific football, like cerebral palsy, blind and visually impaired, or amputee football, which might not immediately come to everyone's minds when they think about a country's footballing culture, but can make a world of difference to the lives of people with various disabilities or conditions which prevent them from playing non-disability football, England is consistently one of the most welcoming and competitive countries in the world. We are a nation that revels in misery, and I am often happy to join in with our national pastime, but these are all things that are worth celebrating. You may have expected me to start this video by talking about the Premier League, the biggest and richest league in football, but I'm actually going to outline it. That's because I think there are lots of complexities to the Premier League, lots of aspects of it that are worth criticising, and in a lot of instances, it represents some of the worst aspects of English football. Those include rising ticket prices and participation costs, which have served to gentrify and socially cleanse English football crowds, especially in the Premier League, as a result of pricing a lot of ordinary families and people out, the prioritisation of money above almost everything else, and in almost every instance, and the selling off of proud institutions of the English game to foreign billionaires, nation-states, and asset management firms. Football clubs, like almost every other beloved English institution, have been sold off to foreign states and American private equity firms, leaving us at their behest. That is why, in the long run, what American billionaires want, whether that be overseas league games, the scrapping or shrinking of historic domestic competitions, or breakaway super leagues entirely, that is what we will get. Again, the point of this video isn't that English football is perfect, or even that it isn't deeply flawed, just that it is also deeply brilliant in ways that we often neglect to fully appreciate. I can also perfectly understand resentment towards the Premier League from football fans basically everywhere in the world, and indeed there in England, due to the hegemonic role that it now occupies and the financial disparities between it and every other league in world football, destabilising the equilibrium of the game in Europe and beyond. Having said that, if it was Serie A, as used to be the case, or La Liga that were in this position of total dominance, I have little doubt that English football fans who raise complaints about it would be told to cry more and be accused of being sore losers. I can respect the Bundesliga, whose financial restraint is at least in part due to the league's governance, and it is a governance and a degree of fan ownership, consultation and involvement, which I and many other English people, I assume, envy in a lot of ways. I must say, I do have a bit less sympathy for Serie A and La Liga, since their owners and administrators are just as shameless, unprincipled and cash-hungry as the Premier Leagues. For the most part, they are just worse at their jobs. In fact, the greed of the biggest clubs in La Liga, for example, is part of what held them back, and the greater redistribution of the Premier League's broadcast revenue allowed smaller clubs to buy better players and become more competitive, making for more entertaining games and competition between themselves and the league's elite. That's not a defence of the worst excesses of the Premier League, just to be clear, which regular viewers will know that I could hardly be accused of justifying. It is just an observation. It would also be disingenuous, while criticising the might of the Big Six, for example, not to acknowledge that none of Europe's other Big Five leagues, and even less so those below them, like the Dutch Eredivisie or the Portuguese Primeira Liga, are more open or competitive at the top end of the division. Bayern Munich and PSG have ironclad grips upon the Bundesliga and Liga titles almost every season, and will continue to do so while their economic might over everyone else is so enormous. Real Madrid, Barcelona, and to a lesser extent Atletico Madrid, form a fairly untouchable Big Two or Big Three in La Liga. And while Serie A has been the most competitive of the rest, since Juventus' run of 9 straight titles came to an end, the gap between the league's 6th highest and its highest revenue-generating clubs, 108.6%, is still considerably higher than in the Premier League, 52.7%. There are other problems too, like the plainly unsustainable finances of the Championship, the EFL, and the English game outside of the Premier League as a whole, the vile racist abuse, obviously by no means unique to English football, but no less shameful because of that, towards black players typically, most recently Antoine Semenyo on the opening day of the new Premier League season, and the impotence of supporters who have become so placid and devoid of solidarity and meaningful collective action in response to assaults upon our national game. Even here, though, it is rarely the case that English football is uniquely reckless, malevolent, or spiritually corrupt. Clubs in several other countries go bust on just as, if not even more frequent bases. Racism is a collective scourge throughout European football and beyond, and in a rare act of defiance, English football fans were actually the most organised, the most vocal, and the most effective in opposing the European Super League proposals, though it should be said, no Bundesliga clubs agreed to join it to begin with for what should be fairly obvious reasons. What's more, whilst England is the racist abuse of Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka, and we can't hide from that fact, it is also the response to that abuse in far greater numbers. That's not to diminish the problem, but English football, broadly speaking, is incredibly diverse and representative. 4 out of England's 5 goal scorers against Serbia were black or mixed race. Meanwhile, Jed Spence is reported to become the first Muslim to have represented England in the same game. Football is a rare arena in which people of all class and ethnicity backgrounds in England, and even gender now of course, can become hugely successful and revered public figures, which is why ethno-nationalists harbour such extreme resentment towards the sport and towards the national team, whilst claiming to be patriots of course. England invented and codified modern football, and Britain at least, exported it throughout the globe. It has since become by far the most popular sport in the world, and the fundamental rules or laws of the game have barely changed since 1863. The man who codified those laws, Ebenezer Cobb Morley, is from my home city of Kingston upon Hull, yet there is no statue of him outside of Hull City Stadium, or anywhere in the city. There are no murals of him as far as I'm aware. There's not even a street or road named after him. If the man who codified the laws of the most popular sport in the world came from a mid-sized city in Albania, Azerbaijan, or Argentina, I have little doubt that he would be honoured and remembered in a more meaningful and visible sense. By the same token, English football, not just its origins but as it currently exists, is one of the wonders of the world. Our attendances, in every realm, our Football League pyramid, and our representative teams as a whole are without peer anywhere else in the world, and we should shout about and celebrate these successes more. Or should we? I think there probably should be a bust of Ebenezer Cobb Morley somewhere in Hull, but more broadly, I think there is something profoundly English about not shouting from the rooftops about these things, not taking excessive pride in what has long been the norm on this island, and not needing to tell people how great we are. Recently, there has been a campaign in England of people erecting flags left, right and centre, some of them as an act of perceived patriotism, and some of them, in their own words, as a form of intimidation. With respect to any American viewers, and I love you all of course, to me, the plastering of flags everywhere, singing the national anthem at sporting events, and having $2 billion stealth bombers fly over stadiums is a very American phenomenon, and is the sign of a young and insecure nation, and America is still very young, trying to assert itself and its national identity within the world. This was never the case in Britain or England. Such outward displays of so-called nationalism would be perceived not only as being uncouth and fundamentally quite strange, but also inherently un-British. The same goes for turning Remembrance Day, which was a day of solemn reflection on the unspeakable horrors of war and the senseless waste of life when I was a child, into some kind of bizarre grief contest with ever larger and shinier poppies pinned to people's lapels, worn ever more elaborately and for ever longer periods of time, in a sort of performative and sometimes even celebratory display meant for other people, with ever less introspection and meaningful reflection. So, what I'm saying is that we should be more mindful of celebrating English football and everything that's great about it, but we shouldn't shout about it, like I just have for 30 to 40 minutes, because that is very un-English, and in fact, maybe everyone else has been celebrating it, I suppose. They just haven't mentioned it because they are fully aware of that fact. Now what, I ask you, is so confusing about any of that? I don't think that we need to engage in self-congratulatory nationalism. It tends not to be very dignified, but if we must do it, then it should probably be about football. England's football culture is unique. It is one of the country's only genuine growth industries, and much as we might get mocked, and indeed mock ourselves for repeated tournament heartbreaks, we are actually quite good at it. Alright, you can demolish me with facts and logic in the comments now, point out that I am as delusional as Rio Ferdinand following a group stage win against Albania, and cancel your channel memberships. I suppose I asked for it.
I don't know, I can speak for us right now, the confidence we've got. People might say I'm getting carried away, I don't care.
I promise you that I will be back to pointing out all of the things that are wrong with English football within the next week. Thank you all very much, as ever, for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, even if you were coping and seething throughout. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and of course make sure that you are subscribed, and have notifications turned on not just for this channel, GgNoRaGe, but also my second channel, Alfie.Sama, both of which should be about to appear on your screens very shortly, along with a couple of videos that you might enjoy watching after this one. You can also find me on various social media platforms, typically via the username at GgNoRaGe. If you want to do the same as Rihanna and follow me, as she recently did. You can also support me additionally, should you wish to do so, which Rihanna hasn't done, oddly, because, she could afford to quite comfortably, couldn't she, of course. Either via the Alfie.Sama YouTube channel, where you can become a channel member, or via buymeacoffee.com/Alfie.Sama, where you can also become a channel member, but Google won't take nearly a third of it. Yeah. You know, if you're willing and able. If not, don't worry, enjoy the videos, they will still be available for free. I'll see you all soon, take care out there, I love you all lots as ever. Bye. Bayer Leverkusen's 2023-24 campaign is one of the greatest football seasons of all time. For all of Bayern Munich's years and decades of dominance in German football, the Bavarians have never gone an entire Bundesliga season undefeated, let alone an entire domestic league and cup campaign. Even Arsenal's Invincibles in 2003-04 didn't go unbeaten in the cup competitions, losing against Manchester United and Middlesbrough. The same is true of AC Milan's Invincible 1991-92, Juventus's Invincible 2011-12, and Perugia's Invincible 1978-79 seasons, in which Milan lost in the Coppa Italia semi-final against Juventus, Juventus lost in the final against Napoli, so against Napoli. Perugia, incidentally, despite going invincible in Serie A in the 78-79 season, didn't even win the title, missing out to AC Milan by 3 points after drawing 19 of their 30 matches. No gold title for them, not since Athletic Club in the 1929-30 season by my count, had a team in one of Europe's Big Five leagues gone unbeaten across all domestic competitions before Bayer Leverkusen in 2023-24, an Athletic Club only had to play 24 matches, compared to Leverkusen's 40. All of this from a club that had finished 6th, on 50 points, over 20 points behind title winners Bayern Munich the previous season, having lost 12 games in the league alone, and with a wage bill just 1/3 of the size of Bayern's. And Leverkusen won the Europa League, where they also went unbeaten until facing Atalanta in the final. It would have gone down at an absolute minimum as by far the greatest non-Champions League winning season in the history of the European game. As is so often the case, however, when there is a surprise package in one of Europe's Big Five leagues, Bayer Leverkusen's squad has been systematically dismantled in a matter of months, let alone years. Monaco, perhaps most notably, were robbed of Kylian Mbappe, Bernardo Silva, Nabil Dirar, Timothy Bakayoko, Benjamin Mendy, Fabinho, João Moutinho and Thomas Lemar, all within 14 months of lifting the league title. Well, we are 15 months on from Bayer Leverkusen's first Bundesliga title and the Bundesliga's first ever invincible campaign, and it would be fair to say that Leverkusen's squad has been decimated in equally emphatic and rapid style. Of Leverkusen's most frequent starting 11 from 2023-24, just 4 players are still at the club. Out of their entire squad of 27 to feature in all competitions this season, only 10 players remain, and manager Xabi Alonso and his backroom staff have also departed. So, by popular demand, and far earlier than a reasonable Where Are They Now video should ever be possible, in today's video, we're going to take a look at Bayer Leverkusen's picked-apart squad from the season before last, and where those players are now. Also, hit the like button if you would like a specific video looking at Leverkusen's post-title challenges, and Erik ten Hag's incredibly short stay at the Bayer Arena. And that isn't just a bribe, although it is that too. I am genuinely trying to gauge whether that is a video worth making, and whether it's something that people would want to watch. Lukas Hradecky, Monaco. Starting with the 11 that played most frequently for Bayer Leverkusen in the 2023-24 season, Lukas Hradecky was Leverkusen's number 1 for 6 seasons, following his arrival from Eintracht Frankfurt on a free transfer in 2018. Fresh off the back of winning the DFB Pokal with Eintracht, winning the Bundesliga Goalkeeper of the Season award, and making the Bundesliga Team of the Season as a result, Hradecky proved to be an inspired signing. He continued his impressive form, becoming one of the most consistent goalkeepers in the world, and racking up close to 300 appearances at the Bayer Arena. Xabi Alonso's captain in the 23-24 season, Hradecky was hugely popular in Leverkusen, and you would struggle to find a Leverkusen supporter who has a bad word to say about him. Age 35 though, and not known for being the most comfortable with the ball at his feet, Hradecky was sold to Monaco last month for a potential €3.5 million, having been replaced by Brentford's Mark Flacker, one of the greatest Finnish footballers of all time. He's not quite finished yet, at 35. Hradecky has since conceded 4 goals in his first 3 games for a Monaco team that currently sits 4th in the league untable. Jeremy Frimpong, Liverpool. Xabi Alonso typically deployed a 3-5-2 formation at Bayer Leverkusen in the 2023-24.
football because they go hand in hand. Sports or life lessons, they treat you, or they teach you so much about life, and that's why I think everybody should play sports, even if you have no aspirations of going to the NFL or even playing college ball. You learn a lot about yourself. The only thing that separates winners and losers in this life, the crucial moments, the big-time plays, the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game in the fourth quarter. What happened? Penn State was playing not to lose. Indiana was playing to win. Big difference. I got to clap it up to Mendoza. Heck of a drive. That was a Heisman winning drive at the end of the game. Omar Cooper, oh my goodness, what a catch. I'm not going to rant rave on the catch because the announcers, oh my God. Dude, don't get me wrong, it was a great catch, but they were glazing that thing. I guess they were just in all of the moments, but, you know, to me, you jump up, it was a pretty routine catch, and to get the foot down, you know, it was good. It was really good. I'm sounding like a hater, just, they were, you know, they were just ODing it too much. They were like, they were treating it like the Odell Beckham Jr. catch. It was a great catch, but not as good as they were making them to be. Let's just calm down for a second. I mean, pretty routine. You jump up here. Now, what I thought was more impressive than catch itself, he got some nice air on it, was the ability to not tap that one foot in and tap the other one in. That was great. So shout out to them. Bounced back. And I knew when they got the touchdown, it was over. At Penn State, they just didn't have the quarterback to go down the field again, field goal range. Didn't have it. But here was my biggest question, right? When Indiana, it was right. Oh, wait. Let's actually backtrack a little bit. So Indiana gets sacked. It's 2nd and 20. Clock's running. This is the final drive. The first play of the final drive. And you got the Penn State defensive line after the sack doing these celebrations, flexing it. Buddy, they got it over. And then Jones is about to snap the ball. You're not ready. So what happens on 2nd and long? The Penn State defenders, since it was celebrating, by the way, why are you celebrating? You're 3 and 5. I digress. They're celebrating. Mendoza, he's getting his team ready to go. He throws that dot up the seam, 25 yards, first down. And now Penn State's like, oh, crap. You know, you got defenders running this way, running that way. Meanwhile, Indiana, they're getting ready to clock and getting ready to run a play. I was like, yeah, that's what losers do. If you want to find out what losers do, go rewatch the final drive. Penn State, I get it if it's the game silly play, but on the final drive, the first play, you sack Mendoza. You're flexing in the camera. Look, they're flexing in the camera. Ah! This was my reaction when I was watching. They're going to lose. I saw it coming a mile away. They're going to lose. You can't make it up. Losers are celebrating before the game's over. You ever wonder why Cinetti's on the sideline like this? Until the very end of the game. Because that's what winners do. They know it's not over until it's over. You know, everybody brings it up now. It's cliche and corny. But the Kobe Bryant thing, years and years and years ago, big-time Kobe fan myself. The reporter asked him after the game, y'all know what I'm talking about. They're like, why are you not smiling? You're not happy? And Kobe's like, what's to be happy about? And the reporter says, well, you're up 2-0 in the series. He goes, job finished? I don't think so. It was something, you know, paraphrasing. He's like, job's not finished. And Penn State, you look like a goofy goober. It was cringy to me and corny. And I get being hyped for a play. But the game was nowhere near being over. And not only were you celebrating, that looked corny itself because the game wasn't even close to being over. It came back to bite me in the butt because the pass rushers that were going, flexing the camera, you know, pointing them back and whatnot, pumping up the crowd. Well, instead of getting ready to rush the quarterback on the 2nd down play and 3rd down play, you got no pressure on them. And Mendoza said, sweet, throwing at the same 20 yards. So now, instead of Indiana panicking and whatnot, going, oh crap, we got to hurry up. They're big chilling. They had 1:30 to go. 1st and 10. Who said it down? Let's chill out. I can't get over that. And it's hard to feel bad for Penn State. I don't feel bad for it. I don't feel bad for Penn State. Learning lessons. Learning lessons. Never celebrate until it's over. And especially don't celebrate when you know Indiana is going to be huddling up quickly. Now, fast forward time a little bit, I ran and raved on that enough. Indiana, they're marching up and down the field. Mendoza's dicing them up. I expected that because Penn State, they were playing not to lose. They were in preventing defense. That's why you're in preventing defense on that. But when it got to the goal line, what was it, 1st and 10 around the 19-yard line, I thought Penn State was actually playing to win again. They were sending the heat. They were sending the blitz. And, heck, they were this close to winning that game. This close. They were sending the heat, and they were remaining the man. I mean, that throwing catch, there was great coverage on that play. But it's too late. Why are you waiting to send the pressure and heat when they got on the goal line? You should have been doing that at the 30, 40-yard line when they were way back there. It's too late at that point in time. And that was the ball game. You know, they got the ball back with about 40 seconds at one timeout, but like I said, they weren't going to do anything with it. Another question I have is when Penn State was moving the ball up and down the field like it was nothing, Indiana, my apologies on the final drive, you could tell the Penn State edge rushers, they were tired, they were getting no pressure on them. Me personally, and it's just me, I would call a timeout on defense after one of those first downs because Indiana, they weren't rushing and whatnot, so it's not like you're going to save them time, but also give your edge rushers, and heck, everybody on defense, a breather to get some energy so potentially they can get a game-ending sack because Indiana had no timeouts. You sack Mendoza once and there's 34 seconds to go. It's ball game. It's over. They didn't do it. I don't have too much more to say about this game, man. I'm not going to pull up the stats or anything. Winners win. Losers. Oh, wait. Last thing to say about this game. I should have started out by saying this. If you're one of these nerds that are going to get up and say, man, I told you Indiana. Dude, shut up, nerd. Indiana's not overrated. Let me say that again. If you're one of these nerds that's going to get up here and go to the comment section, man, Indiana's overrated. They're not overrated. I've said this with every team this year. It is hard to win. Well, I say it with the SEC teams a lot because that's mainly who we talk about because, well, that's most of your top-tier teams. It is hard to win on the road in conference play. It is. I don't care if you're playing a team that's 0-10. 3 rules I have. Number 1, you never apologize for a win even if you're at home. Number 2, you never apologize for winning in conference play. Number 3, you especially never apologize for winning a conference game on the road. Same thing here. I don't care if you win by 1 on the road or 100. A win is a win. You played at Penn State. I'm not going to call it a big time, but semi-hostile environment. You walked out there with a win. Indiana's still a great team. They're one of the best teams in the nation. So don't be one of these dorks and dweebs. Oh, man, I don't care. Indiana won. They got exposed. They didn't get exposed, buddy. They're one of the best teams in the nation, whether you like it or not. Any more things I could say? I'll see you guys later. Let me know your thoughts down below. But Alright. Turn this down. Got a lot to say. We gotta hurry up. The versus the LSU Tigers game. Look, Tigers about to kick off. We got time to talk about this. I want to see the end of the Auburn game. We got time to talk about this. We're in the beginning. We shut the door. Be professional. Alright, my stance on the Oregon Duckies has not changed. The entire season, I told you guys on the playoff rankings. Actually, been fantastic points. They don't deserve to be in the top 12 because of their resume. I'm a big resume guy, but also an eye test. And here's the thing. Maybe for you it's different, but for me personally, Oregon has never passed the eye test. Never. This entire season. They struggled with starting something with Wisconsin. Wisconsin got demolished by Louisville State and Alabama. If you want to talk to that, their best win is against Penn State, who sucks. They're, what are they now, 3-6, and Montana. That's it. If Kentucky, the Wildcats, or anyone in Iowa had Oregon present heading into this weekend, they wouldn't be sniffing the top 12. But since it's Oregon, they got the O, they got the logo, the brand. Everybody uses it. Oh, well, we gotta get the benefit there. You see, you hear all these Big Ten fans and former Pac-12 fans, Big 12 fans, ACC fans talking about SEC vibes. This is Oregon vibes. And it's not really just Oregon, it's big-time brand vibes, if that makes sense. And it's not even like, oh, Matt, you're just saying that because you're SEC. No. Let me first tell you, Alabama gets biased. They get benefit of the doubt. Georgia, Tennessee, all the SEC teams, Ohio State, all you get here, USC, Texas, Oklahoma, list goes on and on because of historic success. I was going to say historic history. You get the point. Since they've been good for the last 10, 15, 20 years, well, yeah, we'll put them in at number 9. We'll know they'll turn on. No, look at the resume. They've done that. That's besides the point. We're here to talk about this game. Well, it's not really besides the point because it goes hand in hand. We're about to get into. I've been blown honorable in the entire season, especially the past 2 or 3 weeks. Y'all know this. Everyone on the channel knows this. It is what it is. And I said if they go in here, if they beat Iowa, I said in the preview. So don't act like I'm changing up now. No. I said in the preview. If they beat Iowa, I don't care. Because not only is Oregon overrated, Iowa is overrated. Iowa shouldn't be in the top 25 in the first place. Iowa can't even score more than 1 touchdown a game. They got one of the worst offenses in the nation. And it's been that way for 20 years. Iowa's not that good. However, with that being said, it's totally right. That's what I think it is. It is. Let's see. Timothy Eaton. It's cheesy cause watching this video. Chomp, chomp. Who's 5'4", 320 pounds, built like a bowl. I apologize for winning. Hey, Timmy, you were 100% right, and I'm going to clap it up to the Ducks. Good win. I'm not taking that away. Good win. What's my 3 rules? Numero 1. Never apologize for a win. I don't care if I'm worse than the nation. Numero 2. You especially never apologize for a win in conference. Numero 3. You especially never apologize for winning on the road in conference. Good win. Not good beat. And I guess you could call it hypocritical, but it's a double standard. I said the same thing in Indiana earlier today. I'll say the same thing with Oregon today. I said it with Texas, Georgia, Alabama. When you struggle on the road, the list goes on and on and on. Good win. And although I said heading into this game, even if you beat Iowa, it's not going to impress me. I believe I said to be exact, you got to beat by 20 plus to impress me. I will give Oregon this points. You showed. Do I get, okay, I get it. You showed a little bit of resilience, and you showed me, okay, maybe they are a little bit better than what I thought, but not by much. This Iowa team is not good. They're sorry and sucky, that doesn't change. It took a field goal to beat them, but a win is a win, as we say. Looking ahead here for the Devils, Dante Moore is not as good as we thought he was. He has been kind of struggling the past couple of weeks. He got to a stellar start. But outside of that, it's like, because at one point in time, everybody's like, oh, he's a Heisman front-runner. Ever since then, not so much. I'm not sold on this Oregon team. I'm not. I know that's like a cliche thing to say after struggling with Iowa, because a lot of people are going to jump on that bandwagon. But 2 things can be true. I'm giving them credit for going into Iowa and winning this game, but at the same time, still not sold on it. To me, since I didn't think Iowa was a top 25 team heading into this weekend, it doesn't impress me. And I still, even with this win, do not believe Oregon is a top 10 team. I'll have to look at my top 12. Maybe they're hovering around 11 or 12. We'll have to see how some of the games go. But as far as it goes for competing for a national championship, we're going to get heck. This team is so far away. They are so far behind. Even teams like Indiana, so much worse than them. So much worse than Ohio State. So I'm not even going to talk about like other teams. You're not even in the top 2 in your conference. I can name 2 teams on top 10 that are light ahead of me. Indiana, Louisville State. If Oregon right now were to play Indiana 10 times this year, Indiana wins 9 out of 10. If Oregon were to play Ohio State 10 times this year, you know how many times Ohio State's going to win? 10 out of 10. Oregon couldn't. They can't even hold Ohio State's jump strap. It's not that Oregon's that bad. It's more of a testimony to how good, great, / elite Ohio State is. And same thing for Indiana. We'll get some of these games and whatnot. Check out the ball game. by the time. And I know my Oregon fans are going to be all over me. Of course, anytime you have a college Auburn, did they get the 2-point conversions? That's a pretty good game. Anytime you say, look, let me establish this. I don't expect Oregon fans to like some random dude in the man cave talking bad about their team. I get it. But I'm not going to pay you. I got to just be honest. We call being proud to see it. I don't think Oregon is even a really good team. I have a really good category, especially for teams like Indiana, Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M. That's a Georgia having an idea. Well, I don't think Oregon, they're just in the good category. Could they win a game? Maybe in the playoff or two, yeah, but it's not consistent enough for me. I got to see more. I know they got USC left. I think that game tells USC. I like that USC team. I'm full of Oregon schedule on time. Minnesota, you can win. Yeah, USC and Washington. Those are the games I'm looking for. Y'all are looking for those two. However they look in those games, it really validates or make me look like it validates my claims up to this point. I've been saying it was going to make me look like an idiot. And if I look like an idiot, we're going to go down here and pound USC and Washington. Let me know right now. I'll apologize to them. I'll say, hey, you know what? I was wrong about these Oregon teams. But they just haven't done anything. They haven't done anything. I can't count on it. Can't do it. Won't do it. I'm missing out on something. I'm not even going to write up stats or anything. I'm going to get back to watching them all over again one time. What else? I mean, that's pretty much it. Like I say, good win. Take the win in stride. Hard to win on the road, but, you know, personally, still not sold on them. But then that's simple about there. If you see Ty Simpson fumble in the second half, you know you're watching an Alabama football game. Every game this year. I can't even get mad. It's just, it's disappointing. Oh. Ooh, it'll be early night for your boy Maddie. Because I think we'll get this over pretty quick. I get uploading. Oh my gosh, I got it. No, it is. Nebraska Cornhuskers. We got to talk about. Well, let me say it again. Yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, I do apologize. I streamed during and after the game, and both streams got interrupted. They ended abruptly. My bad. Once my phone died, the other one, I don't know what happened. Something glitched on my phone. So those streams, I made them members only. So you gotta be a member to view them and whatnot. But you didn't miss too much. I do want to apologize for that. Also, shout out to, I hope he's watching this video, Solidarity. Dude, he super chatted 50 doubloons. Actually, more than that. I think it was like 80 total. Thank you, brother, for that. But we got to talk about this Alabama football game. Gotta walk it off. Walk it off. The coach in me is going to talk. And I know some of you are going to say I'm being negative. That's fine. That's your opinion. I'm not. It's just reality of the situation. So I'm an Alabama basketball fan as well. Big time college basketball fan. So obviously big time Alabama college basketball fan. I've been saying this for years. I tell my buddies this all the time. The Alabama basketball team never disappoints. And they're like, ever. I don't mean like, oh, I'm not just saying it. No, they never disappoint. Let me say it again. The Alabama basketball team never disappoints. Never. They don't. They play hard. They hit shots. It's not about hitting shots. It's about, I know what I'm going to get. Sorry, focus messed up. I know what I'm going to get. Every single game. And I can't dumb it down any more than that. They just don't disappoint me. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go watch an Alabama basketball game. You're not going to be disappointed. With the effort, the execution. That's the word I'm looking for. The execution. You can't always control if you're going to make shots in basketball. But you can execute plays properly. And Alabama does that to a team. The football team, not so much. And I know football is a different sport and whatnot, but I think I've been, so I'd say I've never been disappointed with the Alabama basketball team. the past 2 years. And how many games do you play in 2 years? 80 something, especially in Alabama going on these March Madness runs. Well, the football team this year alone, and this is now our 9th game, we're 8-1. Nice little golf clap. However, I've been pissed off every single game almost. Every single game. At one point in the game, I just get pissed off and annoyed with how we're executing, how we're playing. And for me, this one, it was pretty much all around, but the first half, man, we were fortunate. We played a sorry LSU team that was beyond discombobulated. Fortunately enough for us, they were having quarterback problems. Who knows what would have happened if Van Buren would have started the game? And I said in the preview, if LSU wanted to win this game, you got to start Van Buren. Darren Nussmeier's booty cheeks. Him and Lagway, two of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC. And Jackson Arnold. But now Jackson Arnold's not a starter. And heck, I'd say Ashton Daniels, ain't that the guy playing for Auburn now starting? He's better than Nussmeier and whatchamacallit, who's Badoogie Lagway. This is really a different video for a different day. But if I'm an LSU fan, I'm pissed off because we started Nussmeier. Left him in as long as we did. Yeah, he's an accurate passer, and if you look up his stats and whatnot, he only had 3 or 4 incompletions. But it's the sacks. A sack is like a turnover. You take a sack on 1st and 10, which he does all the time. He gets sacked like 10 times against A&M. It's pretty much the equivalent to a turnover because at least if you run the ball on 1st and 10, worst case scenario, it's 2nd and 11. Well, if you get sacked on 1st and 10, it's 2nd and 20. It's over. You're not going to convert 2nd and 20s even with 2 plays. That's why Nussmeier's so bad. Hey, there's one play in the Bama game is actually the final play of the game for him at least. He scrambled into a sack. You can't make it up. Alabama rushed 3. He didn't need to leave the pocket. He should have stepped up. He ran backwards, did a spin move, and turned right into Pierre, Alabama's edge rusher. Or Ponzi, or whatever that guy's name is. What is his name? I don't mean to, disrespect. What is his name? Is it Pierre or Ponzi? I don't know. It's a new guy, dude. He's a monster for Alabama. But the point is, Nussmeier turned right into him. He's bad, man. Really bad. I don't want to get into that too much. LSU, they just can't score the ball. They got a decent defense. And I say that after the A&M game. It's more of a testimony how unreal Marcel Reed and A&M is than putting up a 50-burger on LSU. LSU's defense, they're decent. They're solid. Nothing crazy, but they're solid and whatnot. LSU offense couldn't help them out tonight. 3 field goals, and they put up 9 points. You're not going to win any game when you put up 9 points, or most of them at that. You especially can't expect to even be in the game, but they were in this game, even late in the 4th quarter. Alabama had to get a field goal to ice it. 20-9. Let me go back to Alabama's offense. To start the game, you had a crazy play where Bray Hubbard rips the ball out, LSU recovers, so instead of being 2nd and 15, it's 2nd and 3 for LSU. They miss a chip shot 30-yard field goal. That was good for Alabama. Then Alabama, what did they do? I think they went 3 and out or something. Punt. Another fumble. This time Alabama recovers. Does nothing with it at all. Talty, he's very bad, but he did make that 45-yarder. Puts us up 3-0. Fast forward in time, we got fortunate right before half because Talty missed that chip shot field goal. We go up 17-3. Ryan Williams finally caught one. Thank the Lord. But heck, I hope some of you looked at that play. He actually bobbled that one and got lucky. The ball was rolling on top of him. He still can't catch a football. I've never seen anything like it. Ever. He was bobbling that. I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm just telling you. He didn't firmly grasp that one. But we go up 17-3 at half. And then the play happens. You know what I'm about to say, right? You know what I'm going to say next. The Ty Simpson fumble. I'm shaking my head. I can't even get mad. It's disappointing. It's not even frustrating. It's just like, Ty Simpson fumble? Yep. Must be watching an Alabama football game. If you see Ty Simpson fumble in the second half, you know you're watching an Alabama football game. Every game this year. I'm not exaggerating. As UCLA fakes a punt, every game. Did they get that? I think they did. Well, let me log back in on this video. Ty Simpson fumbles the ball in the second half. And I would say 60% of the time, it's been because of the running backs didn't pick up the blitz, the pass protection broke down, he got hit, blindside. But this time was on him. Jim Miller actually picked up his blocking assignment. Ty Simpson, you can't hang on to a ball that long. Harold Perkins rips it out. I'm telling you, fortunately enough, we got away with it in this one. We got away with it all year long, but it's going to come back to, I mean, if you keep doing this, it's going to lose your games. Against great teams like Indiana, a Texas A&M, heck, even a Georgia and a Ohio State, whoever you want to throw in there, you can't do that. I mean, Ty Simpson played a perfect game against Georgia, and we barely won that. If he has a disastrous turnover like he's had in all the games except for Georgia, because we all know Alabama plays their best against Georgia, they turned into the 1989 San Francisco 49ers, or 1990 San Francisco 49ers at that. We do this again, the whole fumble and just lollygagging around, we're going to get beat. And it's going to be like the Florida State game. You're not even going to be competing 20 measly points. We looked abysmal on offense in the first half. I know we put up 17, but, you know, there's a couple nice throws at the end that got us to that. In the second half, wow, we put up 3 points. I'm not going to sit up here and rant about this. We can't run the ball still. I'm not going to talk about the longer than 30 seconds. We're not a running football team. I think I told you guys that in week 3. I've already accepted it. The quicker you accept it, the more you'll be at peace with it. We are not a running football team. It is what it is. I will say this, though. I'm tired of Jim Miller. Get him out of there. I've seen enough. Daniel Hill is RB1 for me.
Yeah, do it.
It's not An extra nutcracker this year? You just have to be on the lookout for that. Getting back on track here, it was not the greatest weekend in college football when it comes to chaotic stuff, upsets. As a matter of fact, we barely had any upsets at that. I know we had the two ACC schools going down, Virginia and Louisville, but I mean big-time upsets because let's be honest, Louisville and Virginia were kind of overrated in the first place. There's a lot we're going to talk about, though. What about this? The Badgers, one of the worst teams in all college football, beating a top 25 team? That was awesome. We had two top 10 teams in the Big Ten sneaking out with wins. The Indiana Hoosiers and the Oregon Duckies. The BYU's, RIP to the old nickname, they got demolished. And I was far off on that one. I need BYU to win, and it wasn't even close. You know, we're going to talk about all the games, but before we get into the Saturday games, we had a Friday night game, and that was the USC Trojans. They are quietly making their way up, not only in the rankings, but the Big Ten standings. Everybody wrote off this USC team after they lost to Illinois and Notre Dame. But if they win out, they're going to finish 10-2, and they got an interesting 3-game stretch coming up. They got Iowa this upcoming weekend and Oregon right after. They beat Iowa and Oregon. Things get interesting there. But I'm liking this USC team. I'm higher than them.
With the USA Split World Mastercard, you can
Okay.
later
But
on
I like the
every
Lincoln
purchase.
Riley team. Their defense, they're not really good by any stretch of imagination, but they're better than what we've seen in recent years. I'll put it to you like this. I think USC's defense is good enough to keep rise on them. That's what we're coming to our Saturday game. We had how they take care of business. I'm not going to talk about cupcakes, but I will throw this in there. Here's my pick. Instead of Purdue in November. Come on, man. Look at that. Big tennis. What about this one? Yet sorry and sucky and irrelevant in-state. Giving the Hoosiers all they can handle. And we saw what happened at the end of the game. Omar Cooper, one of the better catches you're ever going to see. He did the toe tap in the back of the end zone, and once it square touchdown, you knew it was over. You knew inside that quarterback was going to march on the field and get field goal range. Shout out to Omar Cooper. That was a White Randy type of catch. Actually, what was this? It was early October. We present great team. That's an identical catch. I was never certain since though because we've already won the game 2017, and that just put it out of pitch. But yeah, shout out to Omar Cooper doing his best White Randy impersonation in Indiana. They're walking out of there with the win. I think a lot of your casuals are going to go, oh, that's all overrated. Nope, I said the same thing to Texas, Georgia, Bama, all these teams. There's 3 things I live by, or not live by, but when it comes to talking about college football. Number 1, you never apologize for a win. Number 2, you never apologize for winning in conference play. Number 3, you especially, throw in 10 more specialties, never apologize for winning on the road in conference play. This is one of those games that every championship team looks back on. You're like, hey, we weren't supposed to win it, but we found a way to win. Congrats to Indiana. I still think Indiana is a really good team, and I've been trying to tell y'all, you better hop on the back of them. This isn't some Cinderella run. No, they've been really good at that. Ooh! Indiana's kids, you do understand for your pad pain, it's hard to wrap your mind around that, but between the one you it is reality. And Douglas is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Indiana's got a good defense to go along with it. And Cincinnati is one of the better head coaches in America. Shout out to Penn State though for putting up a 5, but it was all for nothing. And are we shocked that Penn State lost the top 5 or top 10 game? No, this is what they do. They're losers. They're irrelevant. I'm not talking about Penn State because you know I'm about to say next. I'm not even going to say it. Let's move along to our next game. Let me address this because I had so many people tweet at me saying, yo, man, how come you're not going to talk about Georgia, Mississippi State, make a reaction video of that in the main game? I don't understand what y'all want me to say. Mississippi State sucks. One of the worst teams in the NC State. Georgia, too much. What is there talking about? It's a good game. Sure, you took care of business, but come on now. You did what you're supposed to do. There's nothing to say. Georgia has one of the best offenses in the nation, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Everybody talks about Ty Simpson, Julian Singing, and Fernando Mendoza for the Heisman. What about Gunnar Stockton? I'm tired of the Gunnar Stockton, not hate, but underrated. He needs to get more recognition, and we all know why he's not. It's because he lost to Alabama. If he would have won that game against Bama, he's talking about Stockton like they're talking about Ty Simpson. But he lost to Georgia. They just dominated this game from start to finish. At the beginning, it was kind of close. That was the beginning of the game. Mississippi State was going to come out, what a point to prove, but eventually the talent and just overall the team of Georgia was just far better, superior than Mississippi State. They were going to take over, and they did. The Bulldogs were looking for the Georgia Bulldogs cruised the victory there. How about this? 2:30 at 8 a.m. going to Missouri. This one intrigued me. You know why? Because Alabama is also a really good team, in my opinion. One of the top 5 teams in the nation. They also played Missouri this year. So we not only have a common opponent, but both A&M and Bama are playing Missouri at Missouri. What bit of a different circumstance because both you and I were playing in this one, but still, A&M went there and they just took over the game. They, similar to what Georgia did at Mississippi State, they dominated. This game was never in doubt. Marcel Reed proved yet again why A&M has one of the most explosive offenses and hardest offensive stop in the nation. I don't know how you slow down this guy. You can say, well, we can make a pass, but he's really good at making the short passes. The only thing he's bad at, and it's why he's not up for the Heisman Trophy, he can't complete a pass longer than 15 or 20 yards consistently. He'll make both momentum, but that's not good. But here's the problem. It's easy for me to say in the man cave cheesy plus, oh yeah, you got to make Marcel Reed make you through the air. It's another thing actually doing it. It's the same thing with Jalen Milroe. You don't think all these teams like Georgia, Kirby Smart last year knew that Jalen Milroe was going to run the ball? You just can't game plan for it. All you can do is Kirby Smart or Eli Drinkwitz and put your guys in the best position possible to succeed. You're just having a hat on a hat, a man on a man. Well, at the end of the day, if you have a middle linebacker on Marcel Reed as a head coach and defensive coordinator, you did your job. It's up to that player to bring him down. Follow him really hard to Reed. It's just not going to happen. They ain't have to handle Missouri like it's nothing. And maybe not to you, but it's just so impressive seeing the team go in there and doing what they're supposed to do. Also on the T's, got all their points. How about this one at 11 a.m.? There's not a lot to say about it because BYU, they didn't even show up. Somebody forgot to tell them they had the college game day game of the week. BYU, what are you doing? You're making me look dumb. I picked you to win in this game. I told everybody stop sleeping on you. You're going to learn to respect the BYUies, and you come out here and put up 7 measly points. The crazy thing about Tech is they haven't had a close game this year outside of their loss. Texas Tech is 9-1, and all 9 of those wins, none of them have been below 20 points. One of the craziest stats I've ever seen. Here's the other thing. If you go on the road and turn the ball over 3 times, you can't expect to win. Heck, you can't expect to win if you do that at home. It's not even like Texas Tech was just a monstrosity on the offensive side of the ball. It's more so they were in the mode of, well, we don't have to do too much because we can rely on our defense, and that's what they did.
No mess in there, Noah. I want no fucking mess in there.
I was going to say they're more of a defensive football team. Big win for the Red Raiders. They're going up in my rankings at 2:30 as well. We had the Oregon Duckies versus the Orange Ducky. Yes. 18-16. Nothing screams out an Iowa football game like this. If you were to show me this score, don't tell me who plays in it, but you were to show me this score before the week, and I said, oh, yep, that's an Iowa football game. What do you know? It was a safety, yep, stereotypical Iowa football game. It was ugly, it was sloppy, but Oregon, fortunately, they walk out of there with the win. Great drive at the end of the game. Shout out to Dante Moore. One of the best throws you're ever going to see. Oh, my gosh. He threaded that needle, and the catch was amazing, too. Got him in field goal range, and the kicker, he had ice in his veins. He nailed it. I thought Dante Moore was overall mid at best this entire game. He only had 100 passing yards and 0 touchdowns and 1 INT. His QBR was only 39.7. Gronowski was okay. We know he's not that great of a passer. He's more of a running quarterback. But the Iowa offense, you can't expect much out of them. They stink. Oregon, they didn't impress me. And don't act like I'm just not saying this. I stated in the it doesn't change for me when you win by a measly 2 points. I also stated in the preview, if Oregon wants to impress me, they got to go in here and win by 20. They didn't do that. I will give you credit, though. Good win. It's hard to win on the road, like I said with Indiana, but it's nothing to get too rallied up about. I didn't leave this game thinking, oh, yeah, Oregon's a legit national title contender. No. What about this one for your 3 p.m. game? We had the Auburn Tigers without Huey Hugh Freeze facing the fighting Diego Pavias. Wow. Wow. What do you know? You fired Hugh Freeze, and you finally put up a 38-burger. Man, this Auburn offense, the entire season outside the Baylor game, has looked abysmal. They've been relying on their defense. They've been a defensive team. In the one game they finally scored points, guess what? Their defense gives up 45. Almost a 50-burger. Hey, Vanderbilt, they run that gimmicky offense. It's hard to stop. They've scored on everybody this year outside of Alabama. But golly, 45, you're not going to win anything giving up that many points. And this is a testimony of how Auburn's season has been the entire year. I hate it for Auburn that they lost early, dude. They needed this win. But, man, if you're an Auburn fan, you got to be feeling good. All it took was you to fire your head coach and boom. Like that, you actually look like a real football team. I'd be feeling pretty good about this if I am an Auburn fan. Shout out to Vandy, though. They fought the win, and don't look now, but they are 8-2, and they control their destiny. Yes, that's right. You heard me correctly. Even with the loss to Bama and Texas, they control their destiny. They win their next 2 games, they're in. Wisconsin. Oh, my gosh. was one of the ugliest games you're ever going to see. They got 12 first downs, was 2 for 14 on third downs, had 205 total yards of offense, and beat Washington 13-10. A large reason for that is because Washington had 2 turnovers, but golly, 2 for 14 on third downs, and you win the game? Here's an interesting fun fact for you. They had 4 different players take snap at quarterback in this game. I'm talking about Wisconsin, if I didn't clarify. Big win for the Badgers. How about this before we get into the Alabama game? Wake Forest and Virginia. So talking about ugly games, Wisconsin and Washington, I think this one gives them a run for their money. Oh, man. Whew. Virginia, not 1, not 2, but 3 turnovers. And how about this? Wake Forest took a punt return back, 90 yards. Robbie Ashford, the starting quarterback for Wake Forest, was 7 for 16, didn't even have 50 passing yards, and he's the winning quarterback in this game. You can't make it up. It was that type of weekend in college football. Wake Forest, they upset Virginia, but Virginia's been playing with fire all year long. And like my grandfather told me growing up, he said, Matthew, you keep playing with that fire, son, you're going to get burnt. And guess what? Virginia, they finally got burnt. Speaking of teams playing with fire, Louisville. What about this? Osaga Batali, one of my favorite quarterbacks. The left-hander from, I believe he is from Hawaii, too. He's either from Hawaii or California, I can't exactly remember. He beats Louisville in overtime. If you haven't seen Cal play this year, they got a fun offense to watch when it's rolling. Alabama and LSU night game at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Alabama currently holds the longest home win streak in all college football. It wasn't pretty. LSU, they were discombobulated, but that was to be expected without a head coach. They were getting false starts, penalties left and right. They had 10 penalties in this game. Alabama, they only had 2. You know what this game came down to? Who's going to make the more disastrous plays? And that was LSU. Heck, at the end of the game, when they was on their goal line, they had to punt it away to Alabama, and then Alabama got the field goal that put it out of reach. Their time, Tre'Davious Green dropped a wide open pass on third down, and that would have been a first down. The false start on the 4th and 1. There's so many plays you can point to. And LSU had 2 fumbles. They actually had 3 fumbles, but they lost 2 of them. Todd Simpson lost a fumble for Alabama. But LSU, man, they look bad. It's not like, oh, Alabama looked really good. No, LSU looked bad. It's one of those things that's a double-edged sword. You want to give credit to Alabama for beating LSU by 11, but at the same time, it's like, they didn't look that great. The main reason Alabama won is because Garrett Nussmeier just can't stop from taking sacks, running backwards. And it's crazy because he only had 3 incompletions, but the sacks, they're drive killers. Bama's still struggling to run the ball, but I don't want to overcomplicate this one. Bama wins by 11 over one of their biggest rivals. You can't nitpick too much. It is what it is. Good win for Bama. And last but not least, before we end it off, we got to talk about this. The Florida State Seminoles versus the Clemson Tigers in the Kentucky ACC. The Dabo Dinosaurs get the best of the Seminoles. This was the battle of the bad, and now both these teams are 4-5. The only reason I'm talking about this is because this is normally a great game, and heading into the year, I couldn't even fathom the thought of both of these teams after week 11 are 4-5. Shaking my head. I'm not even going to talk about this game longer than I am now because these teams don't deserve it. Last but not least, though, before we end it off, I got to throw this in there. The DJ Oogbadoogis, Florida. Oh my gosh, 38-7 to Kentucky. I think Kentucky win this game because it was a home game for them, and Florida doesn't have a head coach. And DJ Oogbadoogis is, I would say, now single-handedly the worst quarterback in the SEC. Golly, he had 3 interceptions. This was a former 5-star. There was a lot of these bozos and chumps in the media talking about he was going to win the Heisman Trophy. Get the F out of here. Florida still sucks. Kentucky, they're not bad, though. You know, I got to say this. Kentucky at home, they give everybody fits and troubles. That's going to be it for the Week 11 recap. I know it's shorter than normal, but there's not a lot to say. And if I can keep things short, simple, and sweet, that's what I want to do. I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you had a great weekend. Hope all of you are currently having a great Sunday. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. And man, oh man. It is time for the new and improved MBG poll. Clap it up. Clap it up. Reminder, we will not be reacting to the AP nerds from this point on. Our last time reacting to them was last week because the rankings don't matter anymore. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans. The only rankings that matter outside of the MBG poll are the college football playoff rankings, and we're going to be live streaming that this Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that. We have a great time during the streams, and if you can't catch the stream, don't worry, my friend. No need to worry about it because we'll be posting a video as well. But moving along here to the MBG poll, I'm going to let you know right now, a little disclaimer, a little teasing and foreshadowing. there is a shakeup, not just around 10, 11, and 12, but around 2, 3, and 4. So you're going to want to watch this video all the way through. And like always, I'm going to explain why I have every team ranked where they are, if they went up or if they went down. Let's get straight into the show. We coming in at number 12. We got the BYU. Now I know what you're sitting there saying, because I was seeing the same thing. Dang, I don't know. They should be in the top 12, my boy Matt. Well, here's the thing. Who else are you going to put there? They got a decent resume, yeah. They got the bad loss recently to Texas Tech Red Raiders. But here's the thing. Texas Tech been blowing everybody out. Tech's a good team. And also, don't have recency bias. You can't take away what they've done up until this point. At number 11, I got the Oregon Duckies. They're still not impressive to me. I'm not as high on them as others out there. However, they do have a top 25 win now. Well, actually, I was probably going to follow the top 25, so I guess they don't. But you get the point. They'd be a top 25 team. I know they weren't really great and whatnot, but who else you going to put there? You know, we're getting to that point of the season where teams that are fighting for the last spot, they're not really deserving of it, but you got to throw someone in there. At number 10, I got the Oklahoma Sooners. A reason they go up is because some other teams, you know, Virginia and Louisville, they fell out of my top 12. I did have them in the top 12 last week. Both of them, not just one of them. Both of them, they're out. And if you're wondering, too, if you're a Vanderbilt fan, I do not have you in the top 12, but you're close. You're around 13 or 14. But if you are a Vandy fan, here's the thing, too. Your ranking doesn't matter at all. And here's what I'm talking about. You win, you're in. You lose, you're out. If you go 9-3, you're not getting in. If you go 10-2, you are getting in. So you don't even have to worry about the rankings. At number 9, ahead of Oklahoma, they go up because the BYU is lost. They got the Texas Longhorns. This one's simple. Nobody should be arguing about it. Texas, they beat Oklahoma in the head-to-head, and if you're curious as to why I have them ahead of Oregon, it's because I think Texas and Oklahoma have better resumes than Oregon, and I also think they're better teams than Oregon. Ahead of Texas, they go down in my rankings, and I've had quite a bit of people asking me why I moved them down. It's not because they didn't do anything impressive or whatnot. They were fine. They did what they were supposed to do. They crushed Navy. I got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Last week, I have it number 7. Why they go down? Let me show you this. Because at 7, I got the Texas Tech Red Raiders. It's more so if Texas beat a top 10 BYU team. That's why Notre Dame went down, because Tech, they jumped them. Moving along here into the top 6, we're zooming through this. At number 6, we got the Ole Miss Rebels in the lane train. Nothing to say there. They don't move. At number 5, we got the Jaguars of Florida. And get the Heisman campaign going if you're a Georgia fan. You guys are talking about it. At number 4, they go down in the rankings. I got Indiana Hoosiers. Yeah, these get interesting. I had a lot of Indiana fans asking me, no, what are you kidding me? What is Indiana? We're losing, but barely beating Penn State. No, I'm not getting on this one. I guess I got to show you 3 and 2 because we know who number 1 to explain all this. Number 3, I got it. They go down to my rankings. Because at number 2, last week, give you context and perspective, they were at number 4. They jumped from 4 to 2. That's a big jump considering them when in front of a loss. Alabama, they're supposed to win by double digits. Indiana, well, you know, they're kind of shaking when you want on the road. Open as a winning conference play, especially on the road, like what we say. A&M jumps Alabama and Indiana. This is what I got to explain. Number 1, I'm usually, yeah, I'm in Indiana. Let me double check my rankings. I got it right. Okay, yeah. I said Indiana 3, A&M. Just remind myself before I go any further, make a big whoopsie daisy. This is what did it for me. It's not because of anything Alabama did. It's not because of anything Indiana. A&M and Alabama have a common occurrence. Alabama, as we know, recently went to Missouri. They won, but they only won by 3 points. Now, I know Alabama played Bocula, but A&M just went to Missouri as well, ranked team. They don't have Bocula. They just destroyed it. It's an eye testing. Alabama has a slightly better resume than Texas A&M and a way better resume than Indiana. But when it comes down to A&M and Bama, for me at least, A&M has the eye testing. The past couple of weeks, they look much better than Alabama. And you look at what they did against Missouri, and you look what Alabama did against Missouri, I gotta give the edge to A&M. I think Texas A&M is a better team than Alabama, but it's not by much. Like I've always said, I don't care if you got Texas A&M, Alabama, or Indiana at 2. It's got to be one of those teams. But all 3 of those, they're in the really good category for me. And Georgia and Ole Miss. But we all know they're 3 teams in consideration. A&M, Alabama, Alabama and Indiana. Because you can't mention Georgia up there because Alabama's got the head-to-head. A&M is looking on all cylinders. Alabama, I mean, we saw it in the LSU game. They got fortunate they were playing a discombobulated LSU team because Alabama, they just didn't look that good. But I'm not going to rate them too much because you won by double digits against LSU. LSU's got tons of it. But that's another thing, too. I almost forgot to bring this up in my already been praying. We just watched the LSU Tigers at LSU in Death Valley. And it could have been much worse for Alabama struggled a little bit with LSU at home. That's why I'm giving A&M the advantage, because it's two common opponents, which A&M look way better than Alabama against. It comes down to this for me when it's close. You got to like A&M, you got to like Alabama. If they were to play tomorrow on a new like field, I'm going to have to go with Texas A&M Aggies. As of recent, they look like a better team. Not by much, but the better team. So I'm giving them the edge there. I'm hoping up to number 2. It's time to respect the Aggies, and I don't think we got to talk about this longer than 3 seconds. That number 1, I got a little gross stance. Y'all know my stance on them. It's not close. Big gap. And 2 is insurmountable. Let's check out some of the comments, see what you guys are saying, because I know there's no rally though. For you, Cam said, I know it's Navy, but how did Notre Dame go down? They did exactly what they were supposed to do. Well, Ryan would have done if they answered that question. Notre Dame didn't go down because the main thing they did is because Texas Tech went up because they beat a top 10 BYU team. Christian said, I'd say a solid list. Ohio State is by themselves in the elite category. I agree. So not sold on Texas A&M. Well, I'm starting to turn a corner, and it's time for me to say it. I'm sold on Texas A&M. I'm buying stock. A&M should be number 1. They have the best wins and have looked the best overall, which pains me to say because I hate A&M. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even know you can come to that executive conclusion that A&M should be number 1. Ohio State is the best team in the country. It's not close. Actually, I like this list a lot. I love this BYU on it, but at the same time, hard to think of someone who should be there at the moment. See, that's what I'm talking about. I really don't want to put BYU there, but it's like, all right, who else would? Jackman said, Alabama literally lost to FSU, but you penalized Indiana for winning. I actually responded to this on Twitter already. I guess I'll say it again. I'm not penalizing Indiana for winning. I had them play. But too, it's all the comments I'm going to read yet again. CFP rankings come out Tuesday around 6, 7, 8 p.m. to be around the time, so we'll be doing a live reaction. I'm looking for that. Looking forward to see what you guys got to say. It'd be interesting to see what they do with these teams, especially around the areas, I would say, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Will Vanderbilt go up? Like Oklahoma and Texas go up. What are they going to do with Oregon? Some people feel like Oregon should be in the top 6 or 7. I don't even agree with that, but it is what it is. More things I can say about myself here. Let me get my time a little bit there. Okay. Boys and girls, hope you have a great Monday. Hope you had a great start to your week. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. And oh man, before we get to the college football stuff, I gotta throw this out there. In Northern Alabama, it is currently, as when I'm filming this video, around 8, 9 a.m. Central Time, snowing. Let me say that again. It is snowing in the southeast. Not to sound too corny when I say this, but it went from 100 to 0 real quick. It was 70 degrees for about a week or 2 straight, and here we are. We're in the 30s. And guess what? I love it. I love the cold weather, but I know a lot of people you don't, so I hope you're staying warm out there. That is completely besides the point. What we got to talk about, what we got to lock in and get down to business on in today's video is college game day. We're not doing no intro, none of that. I don't got time to waste. We got time to waste here. We're getting straight into this. I wound up tweeting this out late last night. So like many others out there, I was curious. I was like, I wonder where game day is going to go. And I kind of figured they would do something like this, but it doesn't mean I like it, and it doesn't mean that it's right, at least my humble opinion. So they wound up tweeting out, as you can see right here, college game day is heading to Pittsburgh, and Pat is heading home. They continue along saying it's their first time in the Steel City in 20 years, yada, yada, yada. But as you can see right here, they're going to the Notre Dame and Pitt game. Yeah, that's interesting. Really interesting. I wound up quote tweeting it, and it's currently one of the most controversial things going on in college football, Twitter world at least. Texas versus Georgia, Oklahoma versus Alabama, and they choose this game, LOL. Embarrassing. And I meant that, and I still mean it. There's so many comments on that, but I tweeted right after that one and said this. Because I wanted to explain myself, and before you write to the comment section with me, Bobby, I want you to hear me out. I understand college game day doesn't want to go to the same places, but I feel like it's disrespecting the fans by not going to the game of the week, even if you have already been to that school. I don't care if they went to Bama versus OU. Texas versus Georgia, but it clearly should have been one of those. Notre Dame versus Pitt is the last. Before we go any farther, I need to give you some context and perspective. I think McAfee, Nick Saban, all those guys up there, they've been doing a great job with game day the past couple of years and whatnot, but I don't watch it. I don't know if it's a coincidence, maybe it is, but I stopped watching it when I was getting older, and I'm living up, and I was starting over a college football channel, show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. I've said this before on the channel. I don't watch anybody else in the media that may be your favorite, whether it's a content creator or somebody that works for ESPN, talk about college football. Why is that? Because the last thing I want to do when I get done talking about college football for 10 to 12 hours a day, editing the videos and whatnot, is watch somebody else do it. Does that make sense? For example, if you work at, let's just say you're a plumber, and you're working 12 hours a day. Well, when you go home, do you want to watch videos of people talking about plumbing? No, it's the same thing with me. I love college football, but I don't want to watch other people talk about it. Therefore, I slowly but surely stopped watching game day. And maybe another reason why I haven't watched game day, not just the past couple of years, but really the past 7, 8, 9, 10 years, is because I've gotten older. When I was younger, it was cool. I mean, I'm talking about, I look forward to game day just as much, if not more, than the games themselves. I remember spending the night at my buddies' houses in the early 2000s. It'd be 1 or 2 a.m. I was like, oh, guys, I got to go to bed because I got to get up for game day in the morning. They're like, what? You care about it that much? I was like, yeah, I do. I want to see what Corso says, you know, back when he was in his prime, or at least a little bit younger and whatnot. Game Day was one of my favorite shows of all time when I was growing up, and maybe it is because I was a kid. I remember their theme song. It was that country song. Who sang it? Where they're like, yeah, we're coming to your city. You know, that song? Gosh, man, brings back great memories. Who sang that song? Wasn't it Big and Rich? And, oh, man, don't get me started on this. They made their own separate college game day version of it. That was peak times. But anyways, getting back on track here, I know I'm rambling and whatnot. Don't watch college game day anymore. I may have it on in the background, but you know what I mean. I'm not sitting there for 2 or 3 hours and watching it, not doing anything else. So I now know what Timothy and Bobby are sitting there saying. Well, okay, Matt, I get the point. Then why are you upset about this? And it's not even like I'm upset. It's more so I don't feel like it's right. That's why I said in this tweet, I feel like it's disrespecting the fans by not going to the game of the week. I have to reiterate this because there's still people tweeting at me constantly that don't understand my point with this. I get it. I said it in the first sentence. I understand college game day doesn't want to go to the same places every single week. I get that. But here's my problem with it. It's the same thing with the MVP trophy in the NBA. There was no reason, and I am not a LeBron fan by any stretch of imagination. Some people would call me a LeBron hater. That's fine, but I recognize greatness. There's no reason for 10 to 15 years straight LeBron James shouldn't have won the MVP trophy. But why they stopped giving it to him? Because they got LeBron fatigue. Same thing here at College Game Day. They're getting SEC fatigue or top 10 team fatigue, whatever you want to call it. But I know people were just going to say SEC fatigue. And that's fine. If you're tired of going to the SEC games and you want to go to a different game, do so. But don't call it the College Game Day Game of the Week. And the same thing with the MVP trophy. I don't care if you're tired of giving it to LeBron James. It should go to, and this is just an example, the best player every single year. In this analogy, the College Game Day Game of the Week should be going to, or it should be, the best game of the week every single week. If that means you got to go to an Ohio State game 7 times a year, then by golly, you do it. I don't care. If that means you got to go to a Georgia, a Bama, an LSU game, an Oklahoma, Texas, USC game 7 times a year, you do it. But it takes away from the atmosphere and the whole, I guess you'd say, aura of game day when you choose Notre Dame and Pitt over Texas and Georgia and Oklahoma and Alabama. I mean, come on now. What are we doing? It just doesn't sit right with me knowing they're going to be at this game when it's not even in discussion for the game of the week. There were clearly 2 better games. And it didn't used to be this way. Growing up, I remember game day went to the game of the week every single week. There was one year, I can't remember it, no lie, they went to 6 Alabama games. Not 6 times to Tuscaloosa, but 6 Bama games. I think 4 of those were on the road. How did that happen, you may ask? Great question, my friend. I'd love to answer it. Because the SEC had a bunch of ranked teams, and they were always hosting Alabama, and Alabama was always the number 1 team. So if you're ranked inside the top 15, right there, that's a great game to go to. It's a top 15 matchup. It was crazy. I don't know if we'll ever see that happen again. Game day going to a Bama game 6 times in 1 season. But nobody argued with it, and nobody was upset about it. Why? Because it was the game of the week. And everybody thinks it's a Bama thing. Everybody's like, oh, well, Matt's a Bama fan. He's just upset. Game day's got nothing. It ain't got nothing to do with it. It just so happens that Alabama is the best college football program of all time, and I'm an Alabama fan. I don't shy away from that. I'm using Bama as an example. It just so happens that Bama in Oklahoma happens to be one of the best games this week. And I'm not trying to convince y'all of anything because I already know. Trust me, I know. I'm not going to convince any of these people or change anybody's mind that just goes, oh, well, Matt's just an SEC homer and he's just upset that they're not going to a Bama game, yada, 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 this, that, and the third. You know how it goes. I'm not trying to convince them. I'm just trying to tell you what I mean when I say this or when I tweeted this out last night. Let me throw this out there before I forget. I'm happy for Pitt because there's some people saying, oh, Matt, you're just hating on Pitt. You don't want these fans and the students at Pittsburgh to have a great... No, I'm happy for them. Hey, I'll clap it up to you. I hope you have a good time there. That's exciting for your school. I hope you have a great time, and I know it's going to be a heck of an environment. Enjoy your time there. It's good for them. But I'm going to go back to this. It's the same thing when somebody outside of LeBron James in his prime won the MVP. It's like, hey, good for you, but you ain't the best player in the league. It's LeBron. Same thing with Jordan. I can't remember how many MVPs he had, but he should have more. He should have won it every single year in his prime. But people get fatigued. It is what it is. And here's the thing. Everybody crying saying, no, Matt, you're just mad. I'm not mad. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Who's going to have more viewers? I'm asking you a question. Who's going to have more viewers? Pittsburgh versus Notre Dame or Georgia versus Texas? Answer the question. You know who it is. I'm not even going to say it. I'll ask you another one. Who's going to have more viewers? Pitt versus Notre Dame or Alabama versus Oklahoma? You know the answer. You, guess that's why I'm talking this video, you care more about the Alabama-Oklahoma game, the Texas-Georgia game, more than this one. Whether you want to admit it or not. You don't care about the Notre Dame and Pitt game. You don't. Unless you're a Notre Dame or Pitt fan, everybody cares about Texas. Everybody cares about Georgia. Everybody cares about Alabama. Everybody cares about Oklahoma. Why? Because you love to see them lose. You're a hate watcher. And guess what drives in all the views? Why do you think Alabama is the most viewed football team in college football this year? I can assure you it's not because of their fans. It's because everybody rooting for them to lose. Here's the last thing I'll say, too. It's going to ruffle some feathers, but it is what it is. Pittsburgh is irrelevant. They're not going to win a championship this year. They're not going to compete for a championship, and they're never going to win a championship from this point on. Notre Dame, they are a good football team. They're not going to win a championship this year. The other four teams and the two best games this week, they have a chance. They have a chance. If you want to say, well, Matt, I'm not sold on Texas, I'll give you that one. And if you want to say the same thing for Oklahoma, that's fine too. But we know Alabama and Georgia, they can't. Is this a big deal? Absolutely not. This is the most first world problems. I'm complaining about where game day is going at, and it's becoming a game. It's not a big deal. But I have noticed, and I hope some of you out there as well have noticed, that game day has changed. They used to always go to the best game, but not anymore. I mean, they're on there. I don't got time to waste. Either one of the things we're going to talk about is how Alabama, they're playing with fire. And like my grandfather told me growing up, he said, Matthew, you keep playing with that fire, son, eventually you're going to get burnt. I feel like that's going to happen with Alabama, or don't even feel like it is inevitable. It's going to happen. Also, too, this has just come across my desk. There has been people talking about this the past few weeks. There was this one play against Ole Miss where I think it was the linebacker for Oklahoma. I can't remember his name or who even it was in the first place, but it looked like he knew exactly what screenplay was coming for Ole Miss, and he annihilated the defender. And there's been people stating that Oklahoma, they've been stealing something. Rocker was asked about it earlier today. Here's what he said, and I quote, "We'll be changing everything. So Coach Venables is listening. Just know that they're all changing, but they do everything within the parameters of the game, though." I said this with the Connor Stallions. Yes, you remember that guy, the Michigan Manifesto man? I said it with him, and my stance on stealing signs has never and will never change. I don't care. Even if the team is stealing signs, I don't care. And here's why. Let me explain. Hear me out. Number one, if you are smart enough, and number two, you are willing enough to go through all the pain and struggle of figuring out the other team's signs, I applaud you. And to me, that's more of a strategy for the game than any game. Not just football, but basketball, baseball, you name it. And one thing I always think about is when people talk about sign stealing in college football, was in baseball. I had a buddy, he batted fourth, I batted third. And anytime I got a single or double, I was on second, I would relay the catcher signs over to him if I knew what they were, whether it be in fastball, changeup, curveball. For most teams in middle school and high school at least, fastball was a 1, changeup was a 2, and curveball, it was a 3. As long as you could figure out what the indicator was. So anytime I was on second, our 4-hitter would be looking at me, and I would have signs to him where I was relaying over the information so the catcher knew that I didn't know what he was doing. For example, if one was a fastball, I didn't look at the hitter and hold up a one of my bear, no, and I tipped the bill of my cap or the bill of my helmet. If it was a changeup, I'd rub my sleeve. If it was a curveball, I'd tap the top of my helmet. The moral of the story is, I'm all here for it. I've used it. It's sticking signs. To me, at least, it's a part of the game. Here's another thing I haven't even addressed. It's one thing to know what the team's going to do. It's another thing trying to stop it. At the end of the day, you still got to go out there, put a hat on the hat, put your guys out against their guys, and stop them. And if you know it's coming. Sign stealing's a part of the game. If you're crying about it, I got bad news. You have been stealing signs in college football ever since they made the sport up. Just put your signs. It's not that hard to do. Everybody's tweeting at me, Pat, did you know Oklahoma steal signs? Good. I hope they keep doing it. Bravo to them. That's my main rant on sign stealing. Let's get into Alabama themselves. They are playing with fire. If you have no idea what I'm talking about the team, more so of the offense. Defense, hold on. Very nice, very nice. Defense has been great these past few games. They're the reason we beat LSU. We didn't put a point in that game. They're the reason we beat South Carolina. Of course, Oklahoma and Cal Sellers only some offense, but bad position most of the time. They're the reason we beat Tennessee. Both the game before halftime. They're the reason we beat Baker. Defense been stellar. The second half of the season, not really the second half, but the middle of the second half of the season. You go to Penn State, the offense, not so much. And here's where we're playing with fire. Kind of sense. I love you, man. You're the basement front runner of mine. And the Mendoza, 1A, 1B. You can even throw Julian Sane in there at 1C if you like. It doesn't matter to me. The point is, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. But good googly move. Is that how that football game out Simpson having a fumble in the second half? I don't think so. What is up with that? Man, I know the offensive line, they would say, it has pass protection problems and breakdowns, but they held up, and that one, you can't even tell you, that was on him. He can't hold on to the ball that long, and here's the other thing. Every time he gets sacked, he fumbles. I don't know what that's about. We gotta stop him. I know it's much easier said than done, but we just can't keep having a second half fumble. It's gonna lose us a game. That's how we're playing with fire. Also, here's how we're really playing with fire. Our rushing attack. I said I'm not gonna harp on this too much in the reaction video, but I gotta bring it up. I didn't know it was this bad. I knew it was bad. I'm glad I saw this. I didn't know it was this bad. This is from Mike Roden. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. I just saw this report on Twitter. I had some people sending it to me. Alabama running backs now rank 129th in yards per rush, 3.9. You know how many FBS teams there are? 136. Fellas, we're almost a dang last. 129? Are you kidding me? It'd be different if we were like 75 or 76. Granted, that's bad for Alabama, but 129? We are literally almost dead last. Embarrassing is not the word. It's mind-boggling. It's hard to fathom. But it gets worse. And 134th, or 134th, however you want to say that, in first downs per rush. There's only two worse things, guys. Yet again, only 136 teams in FBS. We are 2 away from dead last. And in 2 categories, we're close to being dead last. I don't even want to look at the others, because I know we're on the top 100. Here's what Todd Simpson had to say. I feel like we're not very confident that we think we can run the ball very well right now, and it's all mental, really. No, it's not mental. I think even Ryan Bro talked about it. We got a running ball. Our running backs, I'm just calling it for how I see it. This has been the worst running back group we've ever had at Alabama, dating back to, I don't know, since I've been watching Alabama football. Running backs have been awful this year. Jim Miller has the vision of Cleveland Browns, Trent Richardson. Awful vision. And I love Jim Miller. Do you think I enjoy saying bad things about, hey, it's my team? But I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta say it and call it for how it is. Jim Miller ain't running. Zero. I'm tired of seeing him run up the middle, run into defenders, run into his blocker. We gotta get him out. Now, pass protection is a little bit different. He probably is our better blocker out of all the running backs, although not great. And out of the backfield, Daniel Hill's been great out of there, but Miller, he's a really good catch for the football. I know he dropped one against LSU, but he's been clutch, especially against Georgia. He's been killing Georgia on the wheel routes forever. But we're talking about running. We can't do that. Daniel Hill, to me, he's RB1. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The running game has been significantly, I believe it sounds significantly better with him in there. Kevin Riley, he's been okay. But outside of that, even when Hill's been in there, I'm not going to act like it's been a night and day different. It's been a little bit, a little bit better. Or I know I said significantly. I just talk about the running game as a whole. Daniel Hill, to give you a better perspective, is getting at least 4 to 5 yards per carry, whereas Jam Miller is getting 0 to 1. So it's not like it's been explosive, but it's been a little bit better. I hope that makes sense. But outside of that, blaming the running backs, well, not the O-line. You know, they say that you either have a good pass blocking offense line or good run blocking offense line. Well, I guess we had to sell our soul to the devil because we are great at pass blocking. Great. Run blocking, no. Can't do it. Can't do it. We get no push. And to me, it's not a mental thing. I don't know what Tyson. Well, I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to, take it for his guys. No, it is a physical thing. Physicality. We're getting pushed around a little bit. To me, an ace is an ace, a spade is a spade, it's black and white. We can't run the football. It didn't hurt us. It hasn't hurt us the entire season outside of the Florida State game and whatnot. But we didn't lose that game because we couldn't run the ball. We just lost that game because they dominated us in all facets of the game. But eventually down the road against, Oklahoma, who has a top 10 defense, not being able to run the ball is going to hurt us. Against Auburn, hey, don't look now. I'm telling you, this Auburn team's scary. Especially since we play in the Jordan-Hare Stadium, I'm worried about that game. I've been saying that since week 0. I don't care if Auburn's 0-4 billion. If we're playing at Jordan-Hare Stadium, I got a weird feeling in my stomach. I always do, always have. There's witchcraft going on there. And you know, with Auburn having a great rushing defense, it's going to hurt us because we only rely on Ty Simpson. And sure, we may be able to skate our way through, maybe finish 11-1, 10-2 in the regular season, and we'll get to a playoff, but you cannot win a national championship with, look at these numbers, ranking 129 in yards per rush. There's no way. We got to be better at running the football. We got to. We're fortunate. We played a discombobulated LSU football team. We're fortunate that South Kakalaki gave the game to us. They played not to lose. When you start playing the Ohio States of the world, the Georgias, the Indianas, the Texas A&Ms, they're going to expose you. LSU, nah, they're not going to expose you. Vanderbilt, no. Kakalaki, no. They're not going to expose you. But these great and elite teams will. Bama has to be better at running the football. I can't dumb it down any more than that. I know everybody's quick to blame in the O-line. I'm here to tell you, I've seen bad Alabama offensive lines. Alabama has a good, I'm not going to call them great or even really good. They have a good O-line this year. They do. O-line's giving Simpson plenty of time. I know everybody thinks about the fumbles and whatnot, but he's had a lot of time to throw the ball this year. They've been great in pass protection. To me, you can blame whoever you want. It doesn't matter. It's somebody's fault. I think it's a combination of everything, but it goes back to the running backs. Maybe it is a running back problem. We don't have a great back or even what I label as a good back there. They're all just decent. We got so spoiled as Alabama fans, getting accustomed to the Mark Ingrams, the Glenn Coffees, the TJ Yeldons, the Eddie Lacy's, the Trent Richardsons, list goes on, and Najee Harris's of the world. We tend to forget, and we took it for granted, that those are generational talents and phenomenal. You're talking about great NFL backs outside of Richardson, but great college football running backs. You see what happens when you have average running back play. This happens. What's transpired this entire season? You could make the argument and claim and say, well, Matt, why do we even waste it down running the football? I agree. I say that to myself when we run it, because it's normally for 1 yard, 0 yards, or -1 yard. It's a waste of a down. But at the same time, to help out Ty Simpson and the offensive line, you can't just completely abandon the pass game. You can't do, the rushing game. You can't. You at least got to keep the defense somewhat honest. Because if you just pass the ball every single play, that's not going to be good. Where am I going at with that? By default, we have to run the ball, and since we're going to run the ball, we got to be a little bit better at it. I'm not even asking to be great, but then can we crack the top 100? I'm going to end the video off with this, the infamous quote of the channel. When I was a kid, I loved firefighting, so building them, burning stuff, playing with them and whatnot. Grandfather told me, I was a kid, I cooked for Rooney. He said, Matthew, son, keep playing with that fire, you're eventually going to get burned. Like a kid, I was like, yeah, whatever, Grandpa, whatever, I'm not going to get burned. And not that day, not that week, not even that month, but many months later, I got burned. It was so bad. Here I am 20 years later, still talking about it. That's going to happen to the Crimson Tide. I'm curious to know your thoughts down below, but darling. I checked for 2 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, football, you have a fabulous and fantastic day. Football, you have a great start to your week. Football, you staying warm. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. And man, oh man. says the For those of you who don't know, I've been saying this for years on the channel. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. The Oklahoma fan base, I admire them and respect them so much. They are my favorite fan base in all the nation. But Oklahoma, number one for me. They've been nothing but great to me on my channel. So anytime I talk to them, I try to pay my respect. Shout out to the Oklahoma fan base. And let me see in the comment section, so interactive on the channel. I just really, and I mean really appreciate you guys. Oh man, this is going to be an exciting matchup. The college football rankings come out tonight. I anticipate Oklahoma should be either 9 or 10 or 11, something like that. Probably going to be a top 10 matchup. We got two of the best teams, not just in the SEC, but in the nation. Going at it in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Bryant-Denny Stadium. For those who don't know, Alabama has the longest home winning streak in the nation because Washington lost this year. And some are, Georgia lost this year. Alabama did that one. Woo! It's going to be a great game. As we know, hey, depends how we forgot about it. Kalen DeBoer has it. This Alabama team and program has it. They've already been talking about it. We didn't just lose last year. We got humiliated on national television. That night, primetime game. It was the game that actually knocked us out of the playoffs. We lost to one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC, Jackson Horn. We put up a measly, let me say this again, measly 3 points. A 3-burger. Shake my head. It was embarrassing, man. And yeah, you can say, well, we only gave up 24. I'm here to tell you right now, our defense couldn't get a stop. We got fortunate in Oklahoma. I think they missed a field goal early on. They fumbled one. We couldn't get a stop on defense. We couldn't stop the run. But that was the story of last year. We couldn't stop the run. This year, though, it's a completely different matchup. Alabama's way better than what they were last year. Got a different quarterback. The offense is much improved. We still can't run the ball. I'm sure we'll talk about that in this video because you can't talk about Alabama without talking about the atrocious run game because it does go hand in hand. For those of you who don't know, Oklahoma has one of the best rushing defenses in the nation. I saw something funny today on Twitter this morning when I woke up. An Alabama account tweeted out, does it really matter if Oklahoma has the best rush defense in the SEC or top 2? It's them and Auburn. They're 1A, 1B. If we can't run the ball anyways. And yeah, come to think about it, it doesn't matter. Alabama can't run on anybody, so it doesn't matter if Oklahoma has the best rush defense. We'll get to all that in just a second. Getting back to the preview, talking about what happened last year. Couldn't move the ball. Really? See, you got to be a ball knower to even remember this. Alabama scored 10. They took away. I still don't understand. There's no point of talking about it because it didn't have any outcome or effect on the game. Ryan Williams caught a touchdown pass. There was some, I don't even know what you would call it, fake flag thrown. It took away 10. So, yeah, I mean, we scored 1 touchdown, but it was embarrassing. Long story short, I don't even want to talk about it too much. There's nothing to really be said. Jackson Arnold, he had the game of his life, and that was a good win for Oklahoma. I believe that was senior night for them, but here we are. Let's talk about this year's game. There's many places you could start with this. First things first, which John Mateer are we going to see? John Mateer has been great at times this year. Heck, the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season, he was a Heisman frontrunner. I think even Nick Saban was vouching for him, saying, oh yeah, he's number 1 for me. Well, now he's nowhere to be found in the Heisman category. He's a walking turnover. Everybody talks about DJ Uiagalelei as a walking turnover, but so is old John Mateer. I can't remember. Actually, let me pull it up in live time. I think he has, is it 7 interceptions this year? I don't know about the fumbles. Let me pull it up. Oh, I got it right here. Yeah, 8 touchdowns. Yeah, bad stat line. 8 tutties, only 7 interceptions there. Not good. No wonder he fell out of the Heisman race as fast as he did. As we know, recently they beat Tennessee. That was a good win in Neyland Stadium. They lost to Ole Miss at home, and they also lost to Texas. In both of those games, ironically enough, Mateer was not good. Hence, they lost. And it's kind of corny and cliche to say this, but if Mateer plays good/great, Oklahoma, they have a great shot to win this game. If he plays like he did against Texas and Ole Miss, it's probably not going to be close. Mateer, it goes without being said, he's the biggest X factor in this game. I can't even label Ty Simpson as an X factor because you know you're going to get out of him. He only has 1 interception on the season. You're going to get good/great quarterback play out of Simpson, especially at home. It's a 2:30 game. Nothing to worry about there if you're a Bama fan. But Oklahoma, oh yeah, you got to be worrying about and stressing about Mateer and praying before the game. Like, come on, man, just get a good one out of you. Can you not turn the ball? Just pulled up the line for this game. I see Alabama is favored by 6.5 points, so we'll say a touchdown. I would say that's about right. Alabama, though, let's talk about them a little bit. They've been, I don't want to say struggling. I feel like that's doing a disservice to it because the defense has been stellar. The defense won the game against LSU. They won the game against South Kakalaki. They won the game against Tennessee, and they won the game against Missouri at the end at Vanderbilt. Heck, the last 5 games, the defense is the main reason. If you got to ask me, Alabama has went 5-0 in the 5-game stretch. Well, now here we are, we're playing Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has, I would say, a slightly better defense than Alabama. I know some Bama fans may take that as disrespect, but it's more of a testimony of how good I think the Oklahoma defense is. They are unreal. They fly to the ball. Here's a fun fact for you. Oklahoma ranks 4th, not in the SEC, but nationally in yards per rush. They only allow 2.5 yards per carry. When you combine that with Alabama having one of the worst rushing attacks in the nation, and no, I'm not exaggerating it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Alabama ranks 129th out of 136 teams in yards per carry. They are literally almost dead last. It doesn't spell for recipe for success for the Crimson Tide and the running game. I'm not a genius, I haven't claimed to be, but good. You're not going to be a rocket scientist and put 2 and 2 together and come to this executive conclusion that Alabama is not going to have a great night running the season. So, one thing to believe or guess they're going to have a good night against Oklahoma. Even in predicting these games, my job is to make the best educated guess possible because that's all it is. It is a guess. And it wouldn't be smart to say, oh yeah, Alabama is going to have 2 rushing yards for Oklahoma. Would that be smart? Could it happen? Theoretically, now that we've addressed the elephant in the room, we can all agree Alabama, they're not going to have success running the ball. So how are they going to win this game? 2 ways. Number 1, the defense has got to keep doing what they've done up to this point. And number 2, Ty Simpson, the offense, they got to put up points. I don't think you're going to hold Oklahoma to under, I'd say, 17. I really want you to think about this. Against LSU, Alabama only put up 20. Against South Kakalaki, they had 14. Well, 3 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, they ended up with 29. Against Tennessee, the defense made a heck of a play, turned that around. Against Missouri, they put up 27. Against Vanderbilt, before that second touchdown, they put up 23. Why am I sharing that with you? Because, yeah, Ty Simpson, he's been great, but the offense hasn't been, I think, as explosive and just outright dominant as some people have perceived it to be. It's been good at times, but it's also been bad at times. They've stalled out. You know, when they're hot, they're hot. When they're cold, they're cold. Against South Kakalaki, what they have? 3 outs in a row. That game, I think it's Oklahoma. It's too much for the Ty Simpson. He hasn't got to stop doing things. Oh, yeah, well, let's speak of ball. We got to run that up. Yeah.
know you said you turned it off.
But there's like a 90% chance that they win. They're getting this shit, even with the loss. I'm taking Alabama in this game. I don't expect to be honest. When I'd be beyond shocked if the team got to the 40s. I think it's going to be around the 20s area. I'll take Alabama in this game 27 to Oklahoma's 17. Any more things I could say we're going to end up here? I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. But having a fantastic and fabulous Tuesday. Hope all of you having a great start to your week. If not, this video can make it a little bit better. And man, it is legit. They can't be beat. So play Alabama versus the Texas Longhorns. One of the more interesting teams in all of college football this year. Got extremely fortunate they didn't lose 2 games back-to-back against Mississippi State, and who was the other one? Oh, yeah, Kentucky, but they walked out there with a win. They got that championship DNA. And Georgia, you can say the same thing about them. Both of these guys, both of these teams, a better way to say it, a better way to put it, they've been showing nothing but pure resiliency all season long. And I admire that. I respect it because that's what winners do. They find a way to win when they don't have their best performance or their best showing, and they have done that up until this point. But something's got to give this weekend because the 2 teams in the SEC that have been walking on the thinnest of thinnest ice the most, they play each other. Texas does have 2 losses, only 1 conference loss though, their other one being the season over against the best team in the nation, over a state, the other one to Florida. Georgia, they have 1 loss, like we talked about. Here's the kicker with this. This isn't an elimination game. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I do want to throw it in there when I'm thinking about it. This is not an elimination game for Texas, because even if you lose this at Athens, Georgia, not that big of a deal, because guess what? They still play Texas A&M. You can lose this one, beat A&M 9-3. That's probably going to be good enough to get you in this 12-team playoff, if you guys ask me, because that win over A&M is going to be really impressive. That's going to be a top 5 team. We'll talk more about that down the road. However, if you don't want to leave it up to the committee nerds, and you want to say, Ben, just win out. I know much easier said than done, right? Win out, 10-2, you're getting in. As far as it goes for the game itself, we saw what happened last year. Georgia walked into Austin, Texas, life goes nothing, and spanked you around for 4 quarters. Yes, that's right. You heard me great. They spanked you around. It was embarrassing. And by the way, the fans for Texas, they embarrassed themselves when they're throwing all that crap on the field. Don't even get me started on that. Yes, Georgia and China. Now with Miami, they got the best of you last year, but it's 2 different teams. You don't even have Quinn Ewers anymore, and I think that's bad news for Texas because he was a much better quarterback than Arch Manning. With all due respect to Arch. However, Arch has been progressing a little bit. He's a little much better than he did at the beginning of the season. I think we can all agree on that. I would tread lightly if I'm a Georgia fan because I think most of your casual fans that just watch Texas struggle this entire season, you're like, oh yeah, Georgia's going to win this game easily. Arch Manning's not that good. Yada, 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 in the conversation. But just like Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend. I don't think it's quite that simple. Any Georgia fan that actually knows football, you know this is going to be a dogfight. And no pun intended when I say that. The reason I believe it's going to be a dogfight is because, guess what? Texas, sure, they've been a little shaky this entire season. They've been a little discombobulated. But they have the dudes. They have the dogs, whatever you want to call them. A.K.A. 4- and 5-star recruits to match up with Georgia. Most teams out here don't have that. And you better believe Texas is going to be fired up to win this game. They've been playing like their backs are against the wall ever since the Florida game. They refuse to lose. Arch Manning has a point to prove. You see him before the games, he's fired up. He hears everyone hating on him. He hears Matthew Gray in the man cave eating cheese post talking down about him. He wants to prove everyone wrong, and I don't blame him. Texas is going to be ready, but here's what these games come down to when you got 2 heavyweights going at it. Execution. Nothing more and nothing less. Bearing some disastrous turnovers from Arch Manning, Texas, or even on the flip side of it, Gunnar Stockton in Georgia, it's going to come down to, at max, we'll say at least 5 plays, max 10 plays. That's it. Who's going to execute better? That's the word of this video. Execute, execute, and execute. I want y'all to pay attention to this as well. In games like this, it's not always the team that has the most home run plays that wins the game. It's the team that can avoid the disastrous plays, the negative plays, stuff like that. Let me ask you a question. Who's had more of those this year? Gunnar Stockton in the Georgia offense or Arch Manning in the Texas offense? It's been Arch Manning. Speaking of Gunnar Stockton, I'm tired of the disrespect. When are we going to start talking about him as not just one of the best quarterbacks in all college football, but put him in the Heisman conversation? What are we doing? The guy is quietly second in the nation in QBR. He's almost had a 90. That is insane. It'd be different if he was doing it in the Group of Five or the ACC or even the Big 12. He's doing this in the SEC, the best conference in America. The guy's lighting up defenses, and heck, if his wide receiver, I'm drawing a blank on who it was, maybe it was a tight end, catches one up the seam against Alabama, Georgia probably walks away and wins that game. But since Georgia lost to Alabama, everybody just wrote off Gunnar Stockton, I guess, and we can't even talk about him in the Heisman conversation. Doesn't make any sense. List. I got him in the top 5 easily. Everybody talks about Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Julian Sands. Did you forget about Gunnar Stockton? Turn on the tape. Watch the film. It's hard to argue that anybody's had a better season than him up to this point. Even Ty Simpson and Mendoza. On the flip side of it, our other prestigious quarterback in this matchup, Arch Manning. No introduction needed. You know who he is. I ragged on him a ton this year. As a recent, I'll give him a ton of credit. But this is what feels like the put up or shut up game. The make or break game. You go out here and ball out, you're going to gain a new respect from me and everybody else. You go out here and lay an egg, yeah, it's not going to be a good look. He will be held to the fire, rightfully so. Arch Manning's not a true freshman. He's been there a while. These are the games. As a Texas Longhorn quarterback, you got to go out there, and I'm not saying you got to win, because if you put up 40, you did your job. But you got to go out there and have a good performance. There's just no way around it. No way, because we know Gunnar Stockton, he's going to play just fine. I haven't even looked at the line for this game. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, got it right here. Georgia, similar to Alabama, is a 6.5 point favorite. That's identical to Alabama. This is a night game in Athens, Georgia. One of the most hostile environments in all the nation. Unless Alabama's playing Georgia, then we know that's a free win. Anytime Alabama plays Georgia, it's like a free spot on the bingo card, but I digress. I am worried about Texas. And I got to go back to this. It's Arch Manning. He is the X factor. Plays great, you got a chance. If he just plays decent, you don't got a chance. Don't even get me started if he plays bad. You'll get blown out of the water, and it'd be embarrassing. Georgia beat you by 30 like it's nothing. Heck, it felt like they beat you by 30 last year, and that was at your place. This time, you got to go to Athens, Georgia at night. Kirby Smart's pissed off, too. We got to talk about that. He's already lost one home night game this year. He don't want to make it a second. I'm actually shocked to see that Texas is only at 6.5 point dog. I thought it'd be around 11 or 12. I guess Vegas knows something we don't, but I tell you right now, I do not trust Arch Manning. I don't. Way too inconsistent. He's either been great this year or he's been dog water. No in-betweens. But here's where things get interesting. When you think of Georgia, historically speaking, you think of great defenses. Arch Manning and Texas, they're going to struggle to run the ball, put up points. But that's not the case this year. Georgia does not have, I'm not going to say, I can't say they don't have a good defense, but it's not that great or elite defense. They're just, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give them about a 6.5 on a good day. They're not average and they're not good. They're slightly above average. They definitely have some holes and you can exploit them. Well, I don't think Arch Manning and Texas are going to struggle to put up points. I think they'll get into the 20s, but here's the problem. Sure, Georgia's defense hasn't been all too hot this year, but their offense is made up for it. They got one of the best offenses in the nation. I don't know how Texas is going to slow down Gunnar Stockton in Georgia. I see Georgia easily getting in the 30s. At the end of the day, here's what it comes down to for me. I have a hard time picking a team that not only have they been inconsistent themselves on both sides of the ball, but their quarterback has been inconsistent, especially on the road. You know, 3 check marks, let's go over them. Which quarterback do I trust more in this game? Gunnar Stockton. Which head coach do I trust more in this game? Duh, Kirby Smart. And which team do I trust more in this game? Georgia. They get all 3 check marks, therefore, I got to roll with the dogs. I'll take Georgia in this one. 31 to Texas. I'll give them 20. 31-20. I like that score. I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. But we're good. Sorry. I caught it just in time. 20. Since when did they actually start the rankings at 6? Normally they pander and talk for 15, 20 minutes. Golly, we got Louisville at 20. Tuning in some action tonight, Matt. Probably not. We got the Louisville and Kentucky game. We got Virginia and Louisville. They dropped 19 and 20. Rightfully so. What are they going to do with Oregon and Texas A&M? Georgia Tech 16. USC's a scary team. Nobody wants to play USC. 15, we got Miami. They go 3 spots, looking like they still control their destiny. Maybe. They got to win out. Because I don't think they can. They don't control their destiny in the ACC. Still no ESPN, I know. Another day, another $5.99 Sling TV. Vanderbilt, the nerds, jumping up to 14. Okay. Hey, by the way, hey, I like the Christmas decorations. I'm not done with them yet. All right, here we go. The top 12. This is what we care about. Nobody cares about anything else. The BYU's. BYU at 12. I got BYU at 12. Everybody's like, Matt, how do you got BYU at 12? This got blown out. Dude, who else are you going to put there? You got to put BYU at 12. You got to. There's not any other great options besides Vanderbilt and Utah, I guess. Yeah, I'm going to put Miami ahead of them. We're getting to that point in the season where nobody deserves. All right, we got Oklahoma at 11. Nobody deserves that 12 spot. It happened last year. It's going to happen again this year. Bama didn't deserve the 12 spot last year, or the final spot. SMU did. Nobody did, but somebody had to get it. What's going on, everybody? I hope you're having a great night. Alabama struggles at Auburn. That's inevitable. All right, here we go. Top 10. Top 10. Texas. I agree with that. We'll see what happens this weekend with Georgia. Their ranking really didn't matter because whatever happens in this game, Saturday's going to determine whether or not they're going to make the playoff. And they really need to beat Texas A&M. Oregon was 9 last week. Where will they be this week? Wait. Oh, yeah. Okay, BYU. Okay, Notre Dame is 9 this week. Oregon is ahead of Notre Dame. Disagree. But it is what it is. Disagree with that. Ole Miss went down. Texas Tech jumped Ole Miss. Leave it to the CFP nerds to do something like that. Texas Tech. Timothy and Bobby, what are we doing? Yo, shout out to Actor for the 2 doubloons. Matt, how does it feel that your hair opens well? Plead the 5th. Georgia, 5. Top 5 ain't going to change it. Bama's going to be at 4. Bama at 4. There we go. No movement. A&M is still 3. I'm definitely agree with that. Not too bad. And not jumping India to joke. You know, I'm not too upset about it. Indiana. Okay, look. I've said before, I'm going to say. We know who number 2 is. It's Indiana. Come on, I'm always talking about that here. Restate it. Look. It's Ohio State up here. Then everybody else down. And when I say everybody else, I'm talking about 2 through 4. Indiana, Texas A&M, Bama, they are clearly 2 through 4. And some 4. Sure. And then there's Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and so on and so on. Here's what's interesting though. So South.
Yeah. Required. Fell on. Water. So good in the game. I really need to go out. Nah, but yeah, what you trying to do? How you feel doing? Yeah, I was like, let's see how they do shit. The what?
The dealership period. I told you, right?
The what?
The dealership.
What about the dealership? Oh yeah.
Yeah, bro, they said they're good and shit, man.
Swear.
They said December 2nd is the earliest they could get me.
Shit.
So hopefully, maybe. I told you, right? This supposed to be like 2 part extension.
Yeah. Got that though. That's the right word.
It's risky, nigga.
Yeah, that's all you, bro. Like Rick Ross said, scrap your clone, my nigga.
Dancers or whatever the fuck is happening to the point is pissing me off. I don't know what's up with that shit, bro. The fucking censors are pissing me off. I'll probably just call them another danger that I made. Censors, some censors just fucked up on like some bullshit done. Can I do that too? Okay.
This nigga.
I just keep them showing.
Be like, hey, yeah, my filters are not working. My radio. I need speakers in my shit. No,
Like, okay. I've been looking at some JOBs. Can you follow me them?
Like, yo, who do you think we are?
Like, matter of fact, honestly, I was really hoping you could just hook me up. Like look more badass stuff. Like, it's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it now. Actually, for today.
I should be.
Honestly, bro, what type of are you gonna get a Civic or
This nigga. The cars is the last one on where they already told me my start date.
Huh?
They text me right now, like 10 minutes ago, like my start date. On the 10th. I was like, fuck it.
December 10th?
Yeah. I hope the training is earlier though. I hope the training that's not the
weeks from now, bro.
That's not saying.
That's far, bro.
God, I'm hoping like the training is the week before. Like the first week of December. I'm hoping that, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it. Damn, bro. That's far.
That's what I'm saying.
So you're gonna be stugging it out to the.
Yeah, I guess so.
Bro, how do I not have you added, bro?
Oh, I'm not even on the game. I'm gonna be honest. I'm still on the game. I'm saving my progress. I'm going on the other.
Nigga straight pussy, bro.
This thing.
Nah, some guys from my